Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by GoDaddy.
Today on Variant, I'm giving you guys some comic reading recommendations. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than Selena Gomez needs to stop singing live. I'm your host, Arris Quinones. Now, one of the questions I get asked most often is what are some good comic books to read, particularly superhero comics, as in general, that's what's most popular. So today, I'm going to give you guys some good reading suggestions of what I think are the best superhero comics currently coming out every month. Now, if I miss a comic or don't mention a title you guys love, that doesn't mean it's bad. There are just so many good superhero comics out right now, I can't mention everything, which again is why I said these are just some of my suggestions. But with that clarification out of the way, let's begin. One thing I always suggest for people wanting to read comics but don't know what superhero they want to read is read a superhero team book such as Justice League or Avengers comics. You get the most bang for your buck and it will help you decide what characters you like most, since a crap ton of characters are crammed into one book. And from there, since you know what characters you like most, you can read their individual comics. Some of the best team comics out right now, I would say, are any of the Justice League books from DC's New 52. You have the main Justice League title called Justice League, which has all the A-listers from DC's universe like Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, and new founding members since DC's reboot, Cyborg, with even some new additions to the team as of late like Firestorm and Element Woman. I also really like their new origin of how they all form together to take on Darkseid, and just all the character interaction in this book is great. The comic is being written by DC comic great Geoff Johns and currently being drawn by who I think is one of the best artists out right now, Ivan Reis. You also have Justice League of America, who's also being written by Geoff Johns, but being drawn by David Finch, who, might I add, draws one of the best Batmans around. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's the difference between Justice League and Justice League of America? Well, the Justice League of America was formed by Amanda Waller and the government agency Arris to create a more obedient league that would answer the calls of the government and its people to protect and serve America. But that's not the only reason this team was created. Their main purpose is to combat the original Justice League if they were ever to get out of line or turn evil. Each member was chosen specifically to take on certain members of the Justice League if need be, as shown in this picture. Martian Manhunter for Superman, Catwoman for Batman, Katana for Wonder Woman, Simon Baz Green Lantern for Hal Jordan Green Lantern, Vibe for Flash, Stargirl for Cyborg, and Hawkman for Aquaman. Then you have Justice League Dark. The team consists of more of supernatural members of the DC Universe, handling situations deemed unfit for a traditional Justice League, which makes for some awesome stories, and just like the title implies, a lot darker of stories. Members of this team currently are John Constantine, Deadman, Frankenstein, and Madame Xanadu. Some former members or unknown status members of the team have been Swamp Thing, Shade, the Changing Man, Black Orchid, Satana, who's actually left the Justice League Dark and now has joined the original Justice League. But if Marvel is more your taste, one of my favorites from them is the all-new X-Men series. It centers around the 5 original X-Men brought from the past to the present by Beast to confront their future counterparts as psychological warfare in hopes seeing their past selves can change them, especially Cyclops, as he's pretty much seen as a mutant terrorist in the eyes of the government after the events of Avengers vs. X-Men, where he was possessed by the Phoenix and almost destroying the world. The comic brings back the original 5-member lineup of the X-Men with Angel, Beast, Iceman, Cyclops, and the return of my favorite woman of the X-Men, Jean Grey. I've always liked her since the X-Men 90s cartoon, and when I say liked her, I mean I had a crush on her along with Rogue, especially Rogue, which I've mentioned before on the show, and that makes this even weirder. Another good one from Marvel would be Uncanny Avengers. The comic centers around a superhero team composed of classic members of both the Avengers and X-Men. They came together following the events of the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline. But even though the title is called Uncanny Avengers, within the Marvel Universe itself, the team is officially named the Avengers Unity Squad, which I don't know about you, but I would have just preferred the team being called Uncanny Avengers. I actually really like the way it sounds. Nonetheless, if you love the Avengers and X-Men, this comic is perfect, much like drinking a cherry Slurpee while eating Reese's sticks. Perfect. But if you like more of intergalactic space stuff, Guardians of the Galaxy has been pretty fun so far. They're a bunch of freedom fighters made up of a diverse group of beings, which now includes Iron Man in a new, pretty awesome looking armor. It is written by the same guy who's writing the other great comic I just mentioned, All New X-Men, and Marvel's pride and joy right now, Brian Michael Bendis. But before I finish my recommendations, it's time to take a look at the lovely people who sponsored us today. GoDaddy Web Hosting delivers the most reliable hosting available. They call it 4th generation hosting, and it offers many features that competitors don't. And right now they've got a great deal that will save you some serious cash. Use the code VARIANT1 to get 10% off your order. So I've given you what I think are some of the best team books since, like I said, I think that's the easiest way to jump into a comic if you don't know what individual character you want to read and you just want to get the most out of your money since there's multiple characters in one comic. But now it's time for me to give you some of my favorite standalone comics, first one being Superior Spider-Man. What's funny is I didn't expect to like this comic as much as I do since Doc Ock has taken over Peter Parker's body and is now Spider-Man, but it actually is made for quite a fun, interesting read seeing how Spider-Man's arch enemy is dealing with being Spider-Man. Plus, Peter Parker is still in the comic, but as a subconscious ghost of sorts trying to regain control of his body once again. Picking up the pace a little bit, we have Green Lantern, which has been great. I love what Jeff Johns has been doing with Green Lantern over the last several years in general, and his new 52 title has been no exception, which is good for me since Green Lantern is one of my favorite superheroes. Although Jeff Johns has just wrapped up his historical run with Green Lantern not too long ago, handing over the writing reins to Robert Venditti, but I think he will do fine. Then there's Age of Ultron, which is a 10-issue limited series that just wrapped up not too long ago. It's a crossover book about the return of Ultron and his conquest of Earth. It's pretty much a must-check-out comic for any fans of Marvel or the Avengers, which again is being written by Brian Michael Bendis, and I don't know how that guy finds enough time to write all these dang comics. It's just madness. Another one of my favorite comics is Earth 2, purely just because it's a fun book. It deals with Golden Age versions and other versions of the characters we love. It's pretty much just cool to see alternate reality counterparts of characters we love like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, or even to see the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, or the original Flash, Jay Garrick. I also can't forget my favorite mercenary, Deadpool. His Marvel Now title has been awesome. I especially really liked the Dead President story arc. You pretty much can't go wrong with Deadpool, and I'm really liking what writer Brian Posen has been doing with him, definitely keeping that fun yet BA element of Deadpool that we've all come to love. It's actually had the original artist for The Walking Dead, Tony Moore, drawing the first several issues. And if you guys, or ladies, are just as big of Nightwing fans as I am, you will love what Kyle Higgins is doing with Nightwing's self-titled comic. Not only are the stories great, but we get to see a lot of guest appearances from characters in the Bat family like Batgirl and Robin. Also, the art is currently being drawn by one of my personal favorite artists, Brett Booth. He draws one of the best Nightwings I've seen in a long while. Another great comic just all around is Hawkeye. People are always asking me if I like it or if it's any good, and the answer to that question would be yes. Highly recommended for anyone who is a fan of Hawkeye and the Avengers film. Now, extremely new title I'm loving, which is drawn by Jim Lee and being written by Scott Snyder, is Superman Unchained. I actually reviewed the comic a couple weeks back, and if you saw that, you know I love this series so far. To me, it's a Superman comic I've been wanting, action-packed and giving us something new, but not just something new that works, which is what the new 52 is all about. Writer Scott Snyder dove deep into Superman's mythos, finding a gap and creating something fresh. We're going to see a whole new challenge and villain for Superman. The story isn't that far along, but if there's one thing Scott Snyder knows how to do, that's looking deep into characters' rich history and giving us something new, but still making it feel like it's been there all along, which he proved he can do, and do very well with my favorite comic book title out right now, Batman. Snyder and artist Greg Capullo have been doing such a great job on it, I can't even say it enough. They reinvented Gotham and its mythos with the very first story arc, The Court of Owls. Then they gave us the awesome psychological mind-F that was Death of the Family, and currently giving us a retelling of Batman's origin from the New 52 that promises to still keep most of Batman's rich history that we all have come to love. It's my favorite comic title out right now, so that should say enough. But for those of you who are like, Arris, what if I want to read a non-superhero type comic? Well, I'm going to give you guys some brief recommendations because I love you guys. You have The Wake, which is a sci-fi action thriller that takes place in the ocean. Five Ghosts, The Haunting of Fabian Gray, which is pretty much Indiana Jones in comic book form. Fatale, a noir crime book. And Thief of Thieves, which is a heist crime type book, which is actually my wife's favorite comic right now. Now, like I said, all these recommendations are just some of my favorite superhero comics I'm loving right now that are coming out every month. So, but didn't mention a comic that doesn't mean I'm not reading it or I don't like it. There's just so much comics to name in not enough time. But every comic I did name today have great stories, great art, and in my opinion, just all around good. First up for October 2nd, we have Marvel Knights Spider-Man Issue 1. This is a 5-issue miniseries that has the wall crawler up against 99 different villains. You heard me correctly, 99 different villains. Next, we have Green Lantern Issue 24, Lights Out Part 1. Relic arrives on Oa as this massive story kicks off. Can the different Lantern Corps come together to stop this powerful enemy? Next, we have Detective Comics Issue 24. Batman's final confrontation with the Wrath is here. Can Batman stop his evil counterpart from claiming any more victims as an epic battle bursts onto the city streets? And finally, we have Forever Evil Issue 2. The villains have taken over the world, but the Teen Titans fight back. Can the inexperienced teen heroes do what the adults could not? And now we must go our separate, different virtual ways. But I hope today's episode helped those of you who are looking for some good superhero comics to read. With that said, though, be sure to head over to our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones, and you can talk to me, I can talk to you, it'll be fun. But I'll see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. I had an itch. And just all the character interaction is in this quite an interesting, fun read. Reading how